Well, Matt, it's a Thursday. Happy Thursday to you. Masters first round Thursday. Man, I'm fucking pissed off this morning, and I'm just going to come out firing, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all.
I mean, the second year in a row, I'm supposed to be in Biloxi, Mississippi, uh, sharing brownies on the tee box for the Great Gulf Close Classic, playing right along with the pros. And again, this Corona, I'm fucking Corona'd out. And we're going to talk about Corona, Constellation Brands here coming up in a little bit. But happy Thursday to you. A lot to get to today, Matt. As always, the world is one fucked up place, and we are going to talk about it.
How do you really feel?
I got to tell you, coming out of the box, Matt, let's come out of the box hot and heavy. Now, Spotify, you're a big lover of Spotify. I'm increasingly enjoying the platform, but this just blows me away. Spotify has removed 40 Joe Rogan episodes to date, and we're going to show you the full list. 40 episodes. You don't get to hear it, Matt. I mean, censorship like this we have never seen before in this country. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's not, again, I'm all for content and platforms that work, but when you start policing what we can and can't listen to, and it's not exclusive, obviously, to Spotify, but I just find it weird that the employees have this type of power, supposedly to, they're saying the employees, are up in arms. So we've got to remove these Rogan podcasts. And I think you and I talked about it a little bit, like just because he, and the great thing about Joe is he has good guests, he asks good questions, and he's open-minded, right? I mean, that's really what Joe Rogan is all about.
And wait a second, here's even more important. Even if he's an idiot, and even if his guests are idiots, you don't have to listen to it. And right. Shouldn't as a free country and free discovery of ideas, don't you want to be able to push back on his thoughts? I mean, don't you want dialogue? Don't you want discussion?
I do.
It blows me away. Like, what is it? What is so dangerous about the things that are being said on these podcasts? I got to tell you, I haven't listened to a single one of them. All right, but let's go through the names, because I mean, he has a lot of fighters on here, and the one that sticks out to me is this David Seaman, a Voyager, I guess, and he's been on 7 of his episodes have been deleted. David Seaman. I don't know who he is, but now I'm very interested in who he is, and I'm going to seek it out and find out just what the fuck this David Seaman has to say. Maybe he's a complete wackadoodle. Well, whatever.
Right.
Doesn't he get a place on the bench? Nope. Right. And then to round it out, the other one that jumped out to me was Dave Osprey, Bulletproof Coffee guy. I mean, the guy has done a great job of enriching himself, and not in the traditional medical community's thought process.
Again, these are free thinkers. Rogan has people that are on there that have maybe a little bit different bent, whether it's MMA, whether it's comedy, whether it's sports, music. Again, I think his whole goal is to enlighten those that are listening to him, and he does it in a way, again, without an agenda. I mean, Joe's not out there promoting anything. I mean, he's very good about his. I love his interview style. It doesn't.
I mean, can you imagine, like in a trading world, if listen, I don't like you talking about Bollinger Bands because it's really fucking up my trading system. Because it's too good. We have to set. The other one that jumped out at me, Matt, is this Dr. Stephen Greer. I just did a quick little search on him. Yeah. And he's a UFO alien guy, but his angle is they're here and they're friendly. And I guess that's something that we can't be faced with. A friendly ET. I don't know. Right. It blows me away that this is where we're at.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. And if you'd like, let me just bring up a Spotify chart real quick, just so we can look at that before we hop on to the next subject. But Spotify, again, here, is, whoops, did not mean to place that there. We talked about this the last month or so, but it has gone from 387 down to 250. So again, significant 30% plus haircut. Really, it's closer to 40, Bob. And it's trying to find a bottom. Again, towards the end of March, kind of put in a lower bottom here, and it has turned, but it hasn't taken out this high here of 292. If it does, probably will travel back to that 317. But again, just looking at some basic Fibonacci's, this thing, again, the 50% retrace is also right where the pivot is. And the 61.8 is a little up there at 333. So I'm not saying that we're going to bounce. I don't necessarily want to short it here though either. So you missed, 40% move. Now look for some type of bounce. Again, for me, we're kind of in no man's land. I don't really want to buy it here. If it gets above 293, you might be able to move quickly up to that other level. That might be an area where I'd look to get to the long side. But right now it's just kind of in no man's land. So there's not really like a trade setup that I see. Because who knows what this market's going to do. And this market's been so quiet. I mean, the SPOOs today, Bob, you're looking at another 10-point total low to high range, not very tradable. The high was seen overnight, and we haven't gone back to test that high.
Yeah, it pissed me. I left an order in overnight to sell them up at 97. They got to 94.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's for surely, Matt, yesterday was National Beer Day.
Yes.
And we went out and enjoyed a beverage. And there's some news on beer. Let's just bring it up here. This graphic that you shared. Small independent U.S. craft beers. I mean, for the first time in a long time, Matt, taking a little pullback here.
Considerable, really, when you look at those numbers. The thing that I find interesting, Bob, is on the total number of barrels has crashed. And what do I mean by that? Well, 2020 was 23.1 million produced. And that is the lowest that we've seen in a 5-year. So if you had a chart of that, that would be a very bearish looking chart right now. You took out the numbers were below all the numbers for the past 5 years. Yet, the operating craft breweries also fell for the first time, but not significantly. No, it actually went up, excuse me. So we continue to, as you said, there's plenty of growth opportunities in markets where there aren't local breweries. And so they're still coming online. And when you look at these craft breweries, it's basically if you have a brew pub where you're eating or a tap room where you're eating versus, just those that produce beer and then try to market it. I think it's you really have to have that tap room brew pub concept to be successful long-term, even in your community. So that is I think where, and that costs a little bit more money, obviously, to, do that and employ and build a restaurant and everything around it. But I think it brings the longevity of your brand into context because, just look at what happened here locally with Boneyard, which was basically, when we first moved here, it came out of the ground probably, I don't know exactly when, Bob, but 05, 06, somewhere in there. And they literally were producing in a back alley, right? And they were doing
with spare parts.
Yeah. I mean, it was really cool the way they did it. And then, in the last 5 years, they opened their own pub, tap room. And, from that, they got purchased by another, regional and large, beer craft brewery here, Deschutes. So, the consolidation will happen when you have, a significant market share and market presence. And obviously, I think Deschutes recognized that, 10 Barrel's a great beer, or excuse me.
10 Barrel's great too.
10 Barrel is great, but they were already acquired by Budweiser. So the fact that, RPM is such a great brand for Deschutes now, they're going to be able to market this and sell it outside of, just the Central Oregon or the Northwest territories. So it's a huge deal because it's such a good beer and most people don't even know it exists. So you get a bigger brand that has distribution across, say, 40 plus states like Deschutes does. And it really opens up, a big upside for a company like Deschutes, which is the number 7 brewery now in America, right?
Well, Matt, you know what I think that for me, the key on craft beer is it's the model. It's the model of why government sucks, right? And when you change regulation, I mean, there was no craft beer hardly at all because every state pretty much you had a distributorship model. You couldn't self-distribute. You couldn't brew beer and then self-distribute it. You had to go through a distributor. So distributors had all the power. And states started saying, you know what, that's just a rigged monopoly system for it. And it came out of Prohibition. When we came out of Prohibition, that's how they set it up. Again, democracy, free enterprise, these are all great things. But, regulations tend to, in my mind, protect market share and kind of ruin the whole idea of capitalism. How much regulation is really there to protect anybody or anything? Most regulation is there to protect profits, market share. And I think craft beer is the perfect example. I mean, it probably went to 0%, right? Craft beer to 12%. I don't see why that can't go to 20 or 30% of the market. Regional small craft beers capturing that type. And if you can self-distribute, you don't have to brew a ton of barrels of beer or kegs of beer to actually make a living. And if you're good at it, if you make good beer, and you can do things that the large brewers can't do. So there's so much nuance to craft beer. And I think we're going to talk about marijuana and the evolution of that and the consolidation going on there. But I just, I love the craft beer movement because of what it has shown. The possibilities when you get the government out of the way, when regulation that is there just to protect market share and nothing else goes away.
Let's look at a couple macros just because we're talking about that. But we haven't looked at Molson in a long time. TAP, Molson Coors hit not an all-time high, but hit a high for the last year here in January, 56.19, sold off down to 43, bounced up here again, 52. Bullish chart, right? That pullback was nice there. Again, it was very nice pullback to a point of control that, it should have held and it did. And that trade's kind of happened again. So I would be, again, pressed up against this old high. If you were forcing me to, give a trade, sell against that old high and after, again, this is a 25% rally just about that we saw here from 43 to 53. So that's a significant bounce. Also, along with TAP, let's look at Bud, InBev. And we've looked at this often. That traded again as high as, first of the year, $72, pulled back. Again, look at this beautiful pullback. It was a 20% pullback, Bob, right to the top of the profile here at 58, bounced already to 65. So again, 15% off of this number up here. So fell 20, bounced 15. But again, we're kind of just in no man's land here. And, I don't see a lot that I like as a trade there. We haven't talked about stores, Constellation Brands in a while. And let's just take a look at that because this one's a monster also. They're involved in spirits, soft drinks. They are involved even in the marijuana CBD pot distribution business. They own a significant chunk of, I want to say Canopy. I think they own like 49% of Canopy, which we'll talk about in the marijuana piece here in just a minute, because there was another consolidation where Canopy actually took out, another Canadian cultivator today. So, things here are pretty interesting. But again, Constellation Brands, very bullish. It traded down to 100 during the COVID lows, and now is back up to 240 on the high up here. So this has been very nice performer. Again, if you could get a pullback into that 184 area, I'd look to buy again. That would be an area of interest for me. So looking good. This is a very bullish chart. Again, about a 40.
Yeah, talk about a diversified portfolio of top-notch brands. I mean,
yep. And then your favorite, Boston Beer Company, is one thin looking name. And again, this is about a third of the market cap of Constellation Brands, but these guys are about a $15.5 billion market cap, Bob. And we're basically at highs. I mean, this thing is at, right up here at 1,271 right now. And it just keeps going higher. So
are they just selling beer or is there something that we don't know about here?
I mean,
is there a Boston Tea Party going on?
Yeah, the thing I never get about this stock is it's super thin. I mean, it almost reminds me of MicroStrategies, how little it trades. And It's traded 45,000 shares today. So it's not widely held at all. And you can see it, like if you go to a short-term chart, I mean, you can just see there's very few transactions that even happen. So
Wow. Yeah,
I would not suggest anybody trade this stock unless you're deep pocketed and have a long time frame, because it's just not a stock for, it's a $1,300 per share issue anyway. So it's not exactly easy to maneuver for most people, unless you're trading probably beginning with Bs. So and you better do your homework, because again, this thing is, back here in the COVID lows, it was it's 6x. I mean, that's the crazy thing. It was was it 285 back here? So 4 or 5x, let's call it. I mean, that's a monster move. Again, just a monster move. So that's my thoughts on kind of the beverage world right now.
All right, man, let's look at the graphic. District of Columbia and 34 states have legalized marijuana in some form. Who was the most recent? Virginia, I believe.
Yeah, Virginia went live today. They, pretty decisive vote in their Senate or House. I don't remember. Probably their Senate. 55-44, I think, was the final vote. So, and as you can see, again, that they're considering that South, but Florida's been medical for a while. I'm still surprised Texas hasn't jumped on here, but politics aside, I can, at least on the medical, usually they go medical first and then they roll over. But the West Coast is fully high. They're fully legal pretty much over here, the whole left coast, along with Nevada and Arizona and Colorado, even Alaska. And then it's interesting that you have the whole Northeast quadrant, except for, what is that? Maybe New Hampshire.
Everybody.
I don't know, that one New Hampshire up there. I can't see it from here, but I can't make out which little state that is. Pretty much everybody up in that Northeast quadrant. Pennsylvania and Ohio are medical, I know, and probably will be big markets to come on next. I saw some numbers, Illinois was up like 120% year over year. Of course, these states that are just coming on, this is like the start of their second year. So the numbers have been astronomical. The revenue is coming in for these states. I mean, if you're a state, with a large population or any population, I mean, for you not to be considering this as a revenue source is foolish. That this is a perfect example of where government should legalize, because it's happening everywhere else.
Matt, and so on the price discovery side here, what was the takeover today that we?
Yeah, so I sent it over to you, but I think Canopy took out another, I believe a cultivation operation. I'm drawing a blank here, Bob. But let me just bring up Canopy real quick, and you can tell me what I just sent over, and I'll find out who they took over here real quick. I don't have it right in front of me. You have it? You have it in front of me? Let me look at Canopy while you're looking at it.
I can't find it. The whole show's gone. All right, let's see. Again, man, I just, as a tomato grower, I just don't understand how people can't grow themselves some weed. But let's talk about the fact that they don't. So
Canopy is using, they use some of their, their wealth and to take out some more names. And this is wise in a growing market space like this. It had traded as high as $56 a share, and it's down. It's been cut in half, Bob. So, these takeovers, and consolidations are necessary. However, as states come on and they're going to get broader distribution. So, you have to do this stuff, and it obviously has hurt the stock price, but over the long run, I think it'll benefit, the more.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty much a layup buy for me. And where you're wrong. I mean, it takes out that lower end of the value. You buy it all the way down.
I mean, you go down below 24 and you're wrong. So I think this is a good area to be dipping the toes in and buying, some things when it comes to the marijuana space. And these guys are still the biggest. I think they're about $11 billion market cap. So Canopy, and again, I believe 49% of Canopy is actually owned by Constellation Brands. So we'll wrap that back into, talking about that. So these guys are, they know it's coming, and they're distributors too, right? Constellation's a big distributor brand, and and they can get that shelf space for this stuff as it goes more mainstream.
Hey, man, I just saw yesterday, and I got to stop in, bendbong.com on Greenwood. All your bong needs, like if you are finning for a bong rip, I got to stop into bendbong.com and see what kind of geographics paraphernalia they have. Maybe they can become a sponsor of the show. This segment on marijuana stocks brought to you by bendbong.com. You need a bong rip? I could sure use a bong rip. Let's sit down and put on some Zeppelin and rip some fucking bongs. Matt, let's talk crypto, because that's what we do sometimes. And I'm irritated here in crypto, I got to tell you. All right, crypto after dark, and Matt, I just want to say that if Bitcoin doesn't get off its fucking ass and do something,
or how about the market in general?
The market too. Let's talk pet rocks. There we go. And Bitcoin it's just brutal. Here's the weekly. Inside last week's, kind of toying just right around this momentum level. Again, it's the level I'm paying attention to. 57, is that right? Yeah, 102. 57, 102, the momentum level. Cryptos never sleep. You got to wait till Sunday night, Monday morning in Asia to see if we, respect this level and close above it. But an inside week, and it's just back and forth, just yawn city, especially from where we came from, right? And where most people are saying, all the fanatics are saying we're going to 80,000, 100,000. And yet now it's like 5 weeks in a row here, sideways.
Well, not only is it 5 weeks in a row, I was just counting out your chart there. It's actually 8 when we first traded this same price. So that green bar was the original high.
Yep.
That one right there. So it's been 8 weeks that we've seen this same price. We only had that 1 week that 2 weeks after that it didn't trade this 57.5. And that's where we are again. So to your point, yeah, we got to do something. We got to break up, we got to break down, but we're just chopping broccoli right now. And it's not very fun.
Broccoli, like Bitcoin, do fucking something, right? Yep. Please. Like ruffle feathers. That's what traders like. Or I'm going to a different pit where there's some action and some noise.
Yeah.
There's no action and noise in Bitcoin right now. And that's all I got to say about crypto today. Man, I also wanted to talk about the bonds because especially on the weekly, this is an incredibly powerful moment in time. Hold on. I got 7,000 names. I got to get to the Z's because somebody changed my fucking system. Here's the bonds, and you'll see how well it fell away right along with that lower momentum line. And this will be the first week since way back here, 28th of December. We've been in lower momentum, and that level tomorrow because T-bonds do not trade 24/7, 365 days a year, right? 156.03. If we close the week above 156.03, we will have closed out of lower momentum for the first time since December. And you pay attention to that. And for me, that's the first signal that we could have a rip correction here because it has fallen so far so fast, right? And then I look to those other levels, the average and that up momentum level, as possible areas where this thing can retrace to. All right, so somewhere the average is 161.23, and that up mo level is a 167.11 this week. It's declining, so next week it'll probably be in the mid 166s, but a ton of potential in the chart. And for me, the first time, I mean, you have to, if you're a raging bear in the bonds, you have to pay attention to this market setup, that they weren't able to hold this momentum level to the downside. And next week, if we close out of lower momentum this week, if they can't recapture that, I am really looking for some serious retracement to go on in the bonds.
Yeah, as I look at it, Bob, I'm still neutral. How's that? This is an 89-minute chart, so we're going back to last June. Considerable sell-off again from 184s almost down to 153s. We got to close above 157.12. That gets us above here. And then really this one up here is even more important. You got to close above 158.5-ish for me to really start thinking, okay, now you can buy the dips. I'm basically playing ping pong still here. You know, if you were to, look at a bracket, you just basically.
Where is that low end of that congestion or the value area?
Hang on one second. I'm just gonna. So this is like 157.08, and this was 153. So nothing's changed. We've been in, you talk about, we've been in this now, from going back to February, like you said, 3 months. So we've been in this chop for quite a while, and we're not really going anywhere, and we're not breaking out. So I'm not gung-ho bullish until we get over here. So I think, today was another example of you sold, right near 157 on a short-term chart, and it kind of gave you a trade there today, right up to 156.31 and sold off quickly. So that continues to still be a point of contention, and you see it every day. It bumps up there and it fails, bumps up, today was another lower high. And it's still, for the day bullish, but it's not taking out any new levels. So it's hard to get too excited until you get out above that range above us that we see right here. And it's setting up and definitely spending some time. But, take a look at the dollar. Well, let's, let me do this. Let's just look at the 10-year rate real quick, because we haven't looked at that.
Because I honestly think these are the stories that are driving what's going to go on everywhere else, right? The dollar and rates are going to drive every other story.
Yeah. So, we've had a pullback in the dollar, and you can show that after this, but same with the interest rates, but they're still just kind of stuck here. 1.7 down to 1.6 is really this range we've been in, since we broke out here in early March. So you've got about a month of just chopping up here again in the interest rates, which is what the bonds are doing. They're chopping for the last 6 weeks. So this is super bullish still, right? Interest rates are heading higher. The dollar, Bob, why don't you show us what you see there? Because I actually think it's a good, you're getting
for
close
sure
to
have a pullback going here. And I'm not quite ready to jump in yet, because it's going to, here are two things. We're going to close out of up momentum on the dollar for the first time in 6 weeks. But the slope of the bands is still positive. So I love this weekly average here, 91.50, let's call it. And even the low momentum level, if it got stupid, 90.5 on a retracement. I'm sure the profile shows, 91 somewhere. All of those tops that we spent at end of 2020 into the beginning of 2021 was kind of like 91, 99, 90, 80 was the high of those areas. We're above that. It's got to get back below that for me to, think that this rally is over.
Yeah, let me share mine real quick. The dollar is still very bullish. You've got a pullback here after making a new high. The new high was, right at 93.50-ish, just shy of that, so 93.46. And we're coming back to test the previous high, 92.40. We're at that number basically a little bit below it, 92 right now. But again, if you can get into this hole in here, test that low of 91.30, I'd probably really, add a significant chunk back on. That would be an area I'd be.
And I love even down in. So you got 91.30, I got 90, 80, a little 40-cent range there.
Well, and then the point of control for the last 6 months is still up here. It's still down here at 90.35. So very bullish all the way above this level still. This is a bullish chart, no matter how you look at it. It's going to take a while for that to be bearish. So you're betting against the dollar right now, still not a good bet. Still not a good bet. And if it does get above that 94.50, this thing's off to the races, as we've said. So this is still staying solid. All the dollar bears that have been bearish for the last 20 years, like they're long gold. Eventually the dollar is going to crash, but it's not going to be tomorrow.
All right, Matt. The best thing about today, hold on. No audio here, but the Masters, just so, it reminds me of my swing. Whenever I watch the Masters, it just reminds me of my swing out there, just silky smooth, just nothing but ball contact. Let's do a little look in here on 15, Matt. Or is this 16? Oh yeah. Just Matt, doesn't that remind you of me?
Yeah, the pink shirt. Yeah, it does.
And if I went into the water, for sure. All right, Matt. That's
okay,
what we got here today, folks.
Actually, I want to point out. Let me just share real quick here because I got the leaderboard. Here's the leaderboard, and we got Kim leading at 3. We got Matsusuma at 3, and my dark horse again, Will Zalatoris was there at 3. Just gave one up. I think that was him. You just saw teeing off there, by the way, in that pink shirt. So, anyways, he's my guy. He's my dark horse. I got $5 on him. $5 wins me 330. So go Will.
Let's just talk about it too. And we talked about it the other day. The course is a lot harder in the spring than it is in the fall.
Yeah.
And the scores are showing it.
Yeah. Look at Bernard Langer. I mean, this guy, he's my age. He's got to be 54, 55. I mean, look,
he's 107 in golf years.
He competes, though, every year. It's unbelievable. He's so good.
It's unreal. He's hitting the ball out there about 240.
John Rahm, sitting here. Mike Weir at even par, just teed off. So there's some big scores. I think Westwood is 4 over after 9. He's done already. So I talked about this yesterday, like the emotional Lee Westwood pick. It's like,
No audience with the Queen for you.
Mickelson, Lee. Fleetwood, Cantlay. These are all big names. They haven't teed off. DeChambeau, Oosthuizen, JT Spieth. A lot of big names yet to tee off. So this is going to change a lot today. Moving day tomorrow.
I got to tell you, Matt, on the floor, there was a couple of days where you appreciated jack shit going on. And that was the Wednesday, Thursday of the NCAA tournament. And then the Thursday, Friday of both of them, NCAA tournament and the Masters, especially as technology reached the trading floor and you had, computer screens everywhere and internet connections. Trading would stop and there'd be more people around screens than in pits watching the action.
It's kind of like the market now. I mean, there's nothing going on.
Exactly. Believe me. There'd be more money transacting on golf shots at people around screens than transacting in pits.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, thank you so much. Please join us at marketvitals.io. Matt, we got some great things coming along, right? We got a podcast we're going to be on next week, Monday. I'm not sure when they'll distribute it, but we're recording next Monday with the fine folks over at 10 Barrel Beer here in Bend, Oregon. Drink beer outside is their motto. We fully acknowledge and appreciate that motto.
Yep.
Yes?
We do. Entirely. Yes, we do. Live outside, be outside, beer outside.
Right on. All right, and I guess that's it. The only other thing, I don't even want to talk about that. Let's keep the energy going at marketvitals.io. Please join the community and please share inside the community. Ask questions. There are only stupid questions when it comes to trading, and I ask most of them.
All right, Bob.
Thanks, Matt. Peace out. Right on.